Hi, everybody. This is Dean over at the Film Odyssey podcast, and we're about to show you our Milestone episode. But a little heads up. Randy was a little sick for this one, a little bit congested, and you're going to hear some sniffling in the background. We did our best to minimize that as much as possible, but it is what it is. We would like you to still listen to the episode, and we look forward to releasing more content to you next week. Have yourself a great night, and have fun. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Film Odyssey podcast, where me and my brother trek through cinema on a quest to find the best films ever made. This season, we begin our journey by counting down the AFI top 100 films of all time. But this week, we're going to be counting down the 10 films we have watched so far on the list, numbers 100 to 91. Randy, how are you doing?
We're going to rank our bottom 10.
Well, we're going to rank the movies we watched so far.
Yeah, the bottom 10 of the top 100 according to the AFI. Which we're going to probably dispel them actually being in the bottom 10.
Yeah, because some of these I feel are a lot better than the 90s.
Some of them are a lot better than the 90s, and other of them are a lot worse than the 100s.
Ooh, big
burns.
Big burns. But before we get in, let me remind everybody what it takes to get on the AFI 100. Like, this is the criteria they use to judge. So first, it has to be feature length, means over 60 minutes. It has to be a significant financial or creative backing from the United States. So American money has to be used to make it. That's why Bridge over the River Kwai, Lawrence of Arabia, Clockwork Orange are on this list. And then it has to have critical recognition, formal print, television, or digital media. It has to be recognized critically. It needs to be a major award winner in competitive events with its peer groups, critics, guilds, film festivals, what have you. It needs to be popular over time, including successful box office, television airings, and DVD, VHS sales and rentals. So how much people buy it actually matters, which is weird. And then historical significance, which is a little weird, but is the movie groundbreaking? Is it the first to do something? Is it technically innovative? So on and so forth. And then the kind of question mark one, cultural impact, because it's really hard to define, because has this made an impact on American society in style or substance, but it's kind of hard to quantify that, right?
It is, which is why I largely ignore it.
Yeah, I see. But there you go. So that's what it takes to get on the AFI 100, and we're only going to do 100 to 91, but whatever.
Well, and then next time we get around to this, after we do, 81, we'll do 100 to 81 and re-rank those and so on and so forth.
Yep, until we rank all of them. So you're only going to get 10 of these specials, I guess. But let's get started. So on the AFI 100 list, number 100 is Ben-Hur, our first episode.
I think this is a travesty to have it so low.
Right? I think, because we were really praising that film. It's this grand epic. It's beautifully composed. The story, though kind of long, is still really compelling. I don't think there's a bad performance in the entire piece.
Well, not bad. Definitely not bad. But, I mean, there are some, not amazing performances, but, Charlton Heston as Judah Ben-Hur is just so amazing. And
right.
the whole spectacle of the movie, it's in Technicolor, my favorite.
Randy loves some Technicolor.
I love Technicolor. The grandioseness of the whole story, the themes of it, I just love it. It's just great. I love it.
We both gave that glowing reviews. And this next movie, number 99, which is Toy Story, which was really surprising for you, if I remember right.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was, to remember it being this good, and how the themes are a lot deeper than I thought they would be. Basically, Toy Story was a big innovator. It was the first CGI only film, and it's actually a pretty decent film altogether.
Oh yeah,
but I just think that it's kind of aged poorly. I mean, at the time when we rewatched it, I think I said that it aged a lot better than I thought it did.
Yeah.
But it does still kind of...
It shows its age a little.
Yeah.
It's one of those
There's maybe
things...
some other movies that we could have in this spot here to represent the new age of like animated kids movies that we discussed at length off the podcast, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that is an interesting thing, because I think Toy Story is an important film. And I do think the story itself is very, very good. I think it's probably the best Pixar film, or at least in the top 3 best Pixar films they've made. And they kind of became one of the most important studios in the modern era. But it comes back to the question, do you pick the film that did it first, or the film that did it best? Because we came up with a few where it's like, man, what would happen if like Finding Nemo took Toy Story's spot? Or Shrek took Toy Story's spot.
Shrek's not even Pixar.
Not even Pixar, it's DreamWorks, but Shrek's awesome. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think we can both still agree that Toy Story definitely deserves a spot here somewhere.
To me, it's like a cop-out, you know, because Toy Story it was fortunate enough to do it first and do it well. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where it's like, you know, if you don't include it, you feel like you're missing out.
But then when you do include it, you're just like, is this the best?
Is this really the best, though?
Is it the best Pixar? That's always the question I keep coming back to. Is it better than, like, Finding Nemo?
Probably not, honestly. But the thing is that it did do it first.
Yeah, and it did it very well.
It did well enough to where it's still in the top 3 Pixar after all these years. So it's kind of like one of those things where
it's probably still in the top 10.
You throw up your hands, you shrug your shoulders.
It's probably still in the top 10 animated kids films of all time.
Yeah.
But
just throw up your hands, shrug your shoulders, and go, whatever, put it on there.
I know. But this next film, number 98, is going to be a very short conversation, because there's only one good thing about it, right? And that's Yankee Doodle Dandy.
That's James Cagney.
James fucking Cagney.
Yeah, this is definitely moving off the list.
It's one of those movies where I feel bad taking it off, because James Cagney is so good.
Yeah, they need a different James Cagney movie on here.
It's true. I mean, I would be in favor with like White Heat or Public Enemy. Mm-hmm. Both of those I think would be fantastic picks for James Cagney to be on here. It's just one of those things where it's like, man, I can't hate Yankee Doodle Dandy because it's just so nice.
Yeah, it's a nice, wholesome little movie. But the thing is that it doesn't
hold
do
anything. It doesn't hold weight very well.
It's, you know, the only 2 things that are good about it is the set design and James Cagney. And that's it. That's literally it for that movie.
It's still entertaining to just watch James Cagney flex on screen for like 2 hours. Yeah. Because he's real good.
Really good. But the thing is that it just doesn't, the movie just doesn't hold enough water, you know? It's not going to make it.
You don't think so?
No. I think something that the AFI kind of totes about this movie to like have it on the list is like it's a American like cultural impact.
Yeah.
Which I can understand, but...
I mean, this has a huge cultural impact, right?
Yeah. It has a huge cultural impact more because of the guy the movie's about, his real life, more than the movie itself. Yeah. In my opinion. Although it is like, you know, the musical biopic thing, which we have a bunch of now.
Yeah. And then next we have number 97, Blade Runner, which we had one of the longest discussions about, because, what is it, we recorded an hour or something of the podcast of Blade Runner, and then we continued talking about the movie 2 hours later.
We stopped talking about it on the podcast. We were like, yeah, we're basically done, and then we talked for 2 more hours afterwards.
Yeah, we turned off the recordings like as we're like cleaning up, and we're like, you know something that just occurred to me, and we talked about it for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
This is one of those movies that was a great conversation starter and a great conversation piece.
Yes.
And I still think stylistically it's wonderful. It looks so good.
I think this movie hits kind of like that right middle ground where it's both thought-provoking and a decent watch, to where it's like, you know, personally, if I didn't have to rank it against these other movies, I'd probably put it in my top 10 of all time, easily.
Your personals.
My personal top 10. You know, it wouldn't be at the bottom, you know, bottom 10 here of the top 100 for the AFI. It'd be in my top 10. But the thing is that Harrison Ford's acting is kind of subpar.
It's very wooden in this, which kind of sucks.
There's a lot of different cuts of the movie, which is like, I think, a detriment to the movie because, you know, you could get a bad cut. You know, you could watch the theatrical cut, and then you get the laughably bad voiceover from Harrison Ford.
Yeah, that's a big reason people have questions about Blade Runner being ranked on the list at all. It's like, can a movie really be the greatest of all time when it took you 7 tries to get it right?
Well, I think Blade Runner is still fine enough with the theatrical cut being on this list, but I think it could probably actually move up a little bit if we had, you know, one of the better cuts on here.
If we just decided we're using the final cut.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
Fine.
But I really like the movie because of the whole, you know, hitting that dual axis of the movie visually is great, or
Mhm.
at least above average.
Oh yeah.
And then the thought-provoking aspect of the movie is like really high up there.
But another movie that's really high up there and thought-provoking is number 96 on the AFI list, Do the Right Thing, which we both agree, how the fuck is it down in the 90s?
Yeah, Do the Right Thing's pretty good. It's one of those movies where I had very low expectations going into it. Very low. And then after watching it, I was like, this is such a good take on the whole subject matter.
It's also a thing, we watched it twice, because this is the only episode
Yes.
so far that actually got borked, so we had to watch the movie twice.
I would knock on wood, but it would ruin the recording.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, Do the Right Thing, I think, has such this very deep, really strong understanding of the subject matter it's talking about. I think Spike Lee actually has a very masterful use of the camera. Everything's very, like, frenetic. There's a lot of, like, energy in the camera work. You know, it's moving. It's all these things.
The characters seem real enough.
Very real. The only down point I have is, like,
There's two.
There's two?
There's two.
There's two?
I know you have two. You can't say the only one, because I know there's another one.
Alright. So there's two. One, I have trouble just connecting with Mookie as a protagonist, because he's not a very likable person for me.
And Spike Lee plays him that way.
And Spike Lee plays him that way, but that's my other problem with the movie, is Spike Lee...
No. I know what your other problem with the movie is, and you're forgetting it.
What is it?
And that's the editing.
What?
The whole part where they walk out the door.
Oh, god damn it. That there is one bit in this where I'm like, where it is a poorly edited...
Extremely poorly
poorly
obvious.
edited cut. It's like one time in the movie. And it annoyed the shit out of me when Randy pointed it out, and I can never unsee it.
Yeah, there's a point in the movie in which Mookie and Pino, I think.
No, Vito.
Yeah, the good brother, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the good brother. They're walking out of Samuel L. Jackson's place, you know, the Love Radio, and they just kind of start the scene just like the two of them standing outside of a closed door, walking down the steps, and it is so obvious it's a movie, not like one little...
It's very clear that what was supposed to happen is they were supposed to be, like, talking as they're walking out of the building, but the door is obviously closed and they were, like, starting and then somebody said, go, but the camera was recording a little too early, and that's what you got. But granted, I also think that kind of plays into this being more of a theater piece, because it feels very theatrical, and that's something that's
before
worse
you
than
said you didn't even like the fact that Spike Lee had tried to make it like a theater.
It's a complicated movie that I have complicated feelings for.
Okay.
I'll put it like
All
that.
right.
You know, it's...
I do agree with you that Spike Lee's portrayal of Mookie is quite unlikable, but I'm pretty sure that that's like
very intentional.
That's intentional, and I'm kind of like okay with that, seeing as that it's intentional. It's like, you know, if the whole thing with Blade Runner, where the idea that Harrison Ford is supposed to be playing a replicant, and it's like, you know, his portrayal of the character would be much better if that was true, but it probably isn't.
I think it is. Alright. I've seen enough facts about this movie.
Whatever. Harrison Ford didn't think he was playing a replicant.
Harrison Ford was
he's
high.
The actor.
He was high at the time.
Oh,
obviously.
yeah.
It was the 80s.
But yeah, Do the Right Thing. Very good take on the subject. Even-handed. It doesn't make anybody into like a big old caricature. You know, it's very real. It did it in a way that I think very, very, very few movies can.
But speaking of Spike Lee, we have to talk about the other guy that he has a massive feud with.
No, you're skipping. You're skipping.
No, that's the thing. Because I also tried to skip this movie when we were recording, because I forgot this movie existed, and I feel really bad about it. And that's The Last Picture Show.
Yeah,
number 95.
Last Picture Show, you know, we had a off podcast discussion about this movie and how we just kind of skim over it every time.
Every single time. When we were talking about the movies we really enjoyed, we thought that were really good, thematics, all this other stuff, we completely forgot Last Picture Show.
And then when we talked about the movies we didn't like,
I didn't have
about Last Picture Show.
Exactly. I didn't have Last Picture Show on my list until like 20 minutes before we were recording, because I'm like, oh fuck, that's right. Last Picture Show's supposed to be on here.
Yes. You're like, why do I only have 9 movies? Oh, it's 91 through 100. Wait, that's not how it works.
Alright, I got. But then when we think about Last Picture Show and we actually talk about it, it's like, that movie is so tight.
It's really tight.
And it's funny, and it's also, like, really sad, and it's, like, kind of bleak, but it's this really real portrayal of just growing up And it's also this weird snapshot of American culture that has a lot of resonance with the time it was released, and it's a very strong movie.
Yeah, it's kind of a movie that you'll watch. You'll have nostalgia for something you never lived through, and it's one of those movies you'll watch and you'll think back to your childhood and be like, man, it was a different time then, you know. What happens to the characters in The Last Picture Show is kind of a very good depiction of just growing up and trial and error and, like, you know, just like being unfortunate to like mess up your own relationships when you don't intend to.
It shows how complicated life can be.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going through these things where it's like, oh, me and my high school sweetheart, we're going to be together forever. And it's like, that's not happening.
It's not
buddy.
happening.
And it's the girl who's like, oh, I thought I was going to grow up and get married and, you know, be the happy housewife. And it's like, nah, honey, that ain't happening. Or the guy who's like, I'm going to grow up and, you know, leave this town and, you know, I'm going to do something with my life. And he's now tied to it in so many ways he can never get out anymore. And it's a roller coaster of emotion.
It really is, and the acting in the movie is pretty good. I like a lot of like the camera work and like the set design and stuff in that movie. I think it's really good.
Also, that black and white cinematography, it looks so pretty.
Yeah, the black and white cinematography kind of got me. I'm usually a person that doesn't like black and white movies,
which is weird because one of your favorite movies is black and white.
Yes.
Don't
at me.
Don't at me. I got you. But somebody we shouldn't be adding is Mr. Quentin Tarantino, who directed number 94 on our list, Pulp Fiction.
Yes, the one you were trying to skip to when you're talking about the beef between him and Spike Lee.
I gotta keep bringing it up because it's really funny to me. But yeah, Pulp Fiction, which we debated, is this the Tarantino you put on the list? And we kind of keep coming back with, it has to be the Tarantino, right? Because Pulp Fiction did so many things. It is a movie where we were saying, oh, it's just style over substance. But it's like, no, that's the point.
Yes.
The style is the substance.
We were having a discussion about how I usually rank the movies. Is my usual method of ranking the movies is going to be, you know, the on-screen, what you see on screen, and then what thoughts that provokes, right?
Mm.
And so Pulp Fiction is one of those things where at first I was like, this doesn't really provoke any thoughts from me. It's more of just a visual spectacle. And then I started thinking about it a little more, and it's more like, but that is the thing it's supposed to provoke the thoughts of. It is a non-linear story that combines a bunch of different genres and tropes of those genres specifically to poke at them, and does it in a way where it doesn't feel too weird. It feels pretty normal.
Tarantino is making a collage by using all these bits from all these different movies. A little bit of Deliverance, a little bit of like Kiss Me Deadly, a little bit of all these like exploitation flicks, gangster flicks, crime flicks. A romantic comedy is thrown in here. And then it's like, and he uses all those little pieces, molds them together, and it forms perfectly as just a cohesive story, even though it's non-linearly.
Yes.
But you still understand everything going on in the film, and it's a very masterful use of like directing, writing.
It's a masterpiece of filmmaking. You know, even though it's not so much thought-provoking to a normal audience member, but to a filmmaker, you'll watch this and go, "Oh, damn, that is some good shit right there."
That's some next level shit.
Because the whole idea is basically he took all these different genres, all these little things he wanted to include, put them in a blender and hit puree, and it didn't taste like shit.
It came out like a nice, like, orange boost smoothie from Jamba Juice.
Exactly.
It wasn't any of that wheatgrass bullshit.
No, it came out well. I didn't have that high of opinion of Pulp Fiction until I made that realization, and now I'm like, it's really good for what it is.
Was this one of those movies that climbed up the list, your personal ranking a little bit on rethinks?
Yeah, it climbed up because, you know, there is that one scene, you know, where he basically does his tribute to Deliverance,
you know,
I don't particularly enjoy.
Randy is not a fan of Squeal Like a Pig.
No, I've never even seen Deliverance. I just know I wouldn't like it. But you know, he has this kind of masterful display of skill here, but the thing is that I still don't get the thought-provokingness that I would want, because I am a simple audience member. Yeah. I am not a filmmaker. I'm not, you know, gonna go write my script anytime soon or put myself behind a camera, but I can still kind of admire it, you know?
It's just a masterful use of camera and story. Like another film we're going to talk about, number 93 on the list, The French Connection.
Another movie that kind of hits the same vein as Pulp Fiction, not so much because, blended a bunch of genres together, but because it doesn't provoke that much thought from you. It's more of how the movie was made that does.
Yeah, because I explained that to you where it's like William Friedkin, this was super guerrilla filmmaking. And it's one of those things where once we look at how it influenced things that came after it, it influenced so much. And the fact it came out in 1971 is this crazy thing when you think about it. Because without this movie, I don't think we get Law and Order. I don't think we get Miami Vice. I don't think we get any of those like police procedural shows that are like a little bit grittier or deal with more like street crime kind of stuff. And also, it's just a really fast and frenetic kind of movie.
It is a fast movie. I really enjoyed it because I could really, maybe not connect, but I could really see that drive in the main character.
In Popeye Doyle. I could really see that drive, that, that want, that every step is a step forward, that never looking back, from his character. And it was just like this fascinating thing I could really latch onto in the movie and like watch it play out. And it kind of reaches this fever pitch of not so much the movie, even though it is like in the part of the movie where it's like the biggest, they're having that gunfight outside. Oh, yeah.
But the thing that strikes me the most there is the fever pitch of his drive to catch the bad guy. He shoots the FBI officer and doesn't give a fuck.
Shoots him in front of his partner.
Just like blatantly shoots the fucker.
His partner tells him, he's like, the agent's dead. And all Popeye is like, well, he shouldn't have gotten in my way. Where'd the guy go?
Exactly.
Cover my back. And he just chases after the guy he's down the hallway.
Yes. It's just one of those things where it's like, he is not somebody who takes setbacks. Like, you'd think shooting an FBI officer while you're on a manhunt would be a setback to him, but he just ignores it. It's not even, it doesn't even faze him, All he cares about is catching the bad guy. And it's one of those things I could latch onto in the movie and really kind of like...
You can ride that thematic drive.
That thematic drive throughout the movie. And like, at some points think it's admirable. At other points you can see how it's like it's his downfall,
But speaking of downfalls, it's time to talk about number 92. The first Martin Scorsese on the list, Goodfellas. Motherfucking Joe Pesci, De Niro, Lyotta. It's so good.
Everybody loves Martin Scorsese movies. Come on, you gotta admit it.
It's true. And this is Goodfellas.
It's Goodfellas. Everybody knows a Goodfella.
I can't praise this movie more.
I know.
I love this movie.
He has gone on 4-hour rants about how this movie is the bee's knees, should be number 1 on the list.
Not number 1. Definitely out of the fucking 90s, but not number 1.
No. The way you freaking fillet this movie, you're like, it's gotta be in the top 10.
It's so good.
Which is kind of a very this is I think the only movie where we have like a very different opinion on.
Yeah.
You think this movie is an amazing tour de force of filmmaking.
Yes.
And I'm like, it's alright. I don't like, it's good. All the aspects of the movie are good, but I don't really get anything out of the movie. Like, personally to myself, I've watched this movie probably like 5 times now. I mean, I haven't really gotten anything new out of it from the last 4 viewings.
Which I don't get. I mean, it might be a thing where I keep looking at this movie and I keep finding new things about it that I enjoy. Like the first time I watched it for pure entertainment value. I'm like, this is a great, like, fun gangster movie.
Yeah, it is.
And then you watch it again, it's like, oh, okay, so, like, wait a minute, how the characters interact with each other, they each look at different aspects of the life and how each of them is like a downfall in and of itself. And then you look at it again, it's like, wait, this is how like the camera tells all that story, and it's like how the sound design works, how you get so much out of the needle drop of the music, but Randy
here's
don't
the thing.
give a fuck.
Those last 3 things, I don't make movies. I didn't go to film school, unlike some people here. So those things, they don't faze me as much. Like, I can kind of pick them up, but not in a way in which I'm going to suddenly pick up on something new on the 5th viewing. I might have caught something new on like the 3rd viewing, but it didn't really change my opinion of the movie.
Mm.
It's one of those things where it's like, the movie's really good, the performances really good, story really good, like, the way it's shot, all that stuff, but it's one of those things where at the end of the day, to me, the movie's it's kind of bland in a way to where it's like, I don't get anything about thinking about the movie. Which is, this is a personal thing. I'm somebody who really enjoys movies where afterwards I get to like stew for like 2 hours on like what I just watched, With Goodfellas, I'm like, yeah, it was a good romp.
Oh God, I think you're not giving it nearly enough credit.
I'm probably not, but it's just the way I feel. And
well, speaking about movies that make you feel something, number 91, Sophie's Choice, which Randy got into tears during the recording of this episode,
and in the discussion at Applebee's about Sophie's Choice versus Goodfellas,
which was a week later.
Which yes, was a week later, but man, is this movie fucking good! It's so incredible, the performance from Meryl Streep, the way all the characters connect, and like the themes of the movie, the underlying like mystique of Kevin Kline's character, yeah, the like underlying mystique of his character, where you like. Before you find out that, everything's fake with him, right? You're like, what keeps Sophie around, right? You're like, what about him keeps her around? And then you realize it's because they're both living a fantasy, and that's what they both want. It's what Sophie wants. She doesn't want to live in the real world. She's done horrible things in the real world.
She doesn't want to live with Stingo, because Stingo is the real world.
Stingo is the real world. It's one of these things where you think about the movie for like a couple hours afterwards, and you're like, oh my god, it's so much.
We talked about this movie for a long time, and we kept coming up with more and more things where it's like, man, there's so many little things going on in this movie, so many little details going on in this movie, and it was really, really good.
Although one thing that we do disagree about pretty heavily about this movie is the fact that you can tell it's a book adaptation.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. I think it was done well, and
I'm not a fan of how literary and flowery some of the dialogue is, and also like some of the voiceover narration I'm not a huge fan of.
You think it's cheesy, and I'm thinking it's just right.
Yeah, which, granted, there's always that thing where it's like you walk a fine line when you put voiceover in a movie. Either it comes off as like cheesy or it comes off as like good. And it's one of those things where it's like some of it is fine, others of it is like really cheesy. And
you
also
think so?
Yeah, and also the thing where you have Stingo's voiceover narration sounds like a Tennessee Williams like bad fanfic. Kind of annoys me.
I love it. You don't really like Stingo as a character that much, and I think he's just fine.
My problem with Stingo is that he's so blank. Not saying this the actor is doing a poor job. He's doing a great job.
But
the role he's given.
The character itself is intentionally left a little blank.
He's meant to be this audience surrogate, but he has enough character to have his own personality, but he's not. To me, I never really
enjoyed the audience surrogate type of character.
Not particularly. Then I just could never like ride the wave that Stingo is on, because I just wanted more Sophie kind of thing.
Yeah. But the thing is that the story itself is about Sophie, but it's told through Stingo's eyes.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, do we ever get like a scene where Stingo isn't around?
I don't think so. I mean, we do, but it's always like Sophie's telling him a story. It's a flashback.
And it's a flashback. The whole idea of the stories is told through Stingo's eyes. And it's one of those things where, because the whole story is told through the window that is Stingo's eyes, that he is the window into the story for us. It's one of those things where it's like kind of unavoidable for him to be this blank slate protagonist type guy. And I think it works well. I think he has enough character to where it's not like bad. But the thing is that you can't give him too much character, because then you become the window into this relationship instead of Stingo.
Yeah, it's a fine line that I feel it's not perfectly.
You feel they're not on the right side of the line?
They're not on the right side of the line.
I think they are.
Yeah, it becomes a matter of personal opinion.
Yes.
At that point. But speaking of personal opinions,
let's get out into our list.
Yes, sir. So we have 3 lists here. We have my list, Randy's list, and then our combined list, which is the one we kind of agreed on is probably the best median between the two of us.
I worked hard for that combined list.
You you cried in front of me to get your number.
At Applebee's. I didn't cry though, but I did, have to like dab my eyes. They were getting a little teary.
But where do you want to start?
Well, just go for yours.
All right. So mine, I have the bottom number 100 as Yankee Doodle Dandy, which we kind of both agree on.
Yeah.
And then I have my number 99, French Connection, 98, Toy Story, 97, Last Picture Show, 96, Pulp Fiction, 95, Blade Runner, 94, Ben-Hur, 93, Do the Right Thing, 92, Sophie's Choice, and 91, Goodfellas.
And I have my list which reads 100 Yankee Doodle Dandy, 99 Toy Story, 98 French Connection, 97 Last Picture Show, 96 Pulp Fiction, 95 Blade Runner, 94
You fuck.
Goodfellas, 93 Do the Right Thing, 92 Ben-Hur, Judah Ben-Hur, 91 Sophie's Choice.
The thing is, like, the bottom half of our list are very similar.
Yeah, from Blade Runner down, it's basically all the same, except we have Toy Story and French Connection flipped. I think French Connection is better than Toy Story, and you think the opposite.
Yeah. How we did the combining of this list is we kind of averaged a little bit. We figured, okay, which one is better, which one's worse, but then there was the other thing where it's like we had to make some concessions both together.
Yes.
So, for the combined list, we have Yankee Doodle Dandy has maintained at number 100 because it's objectively the worst out of the 10 we've watched.
It's not that great of... It's nice, but that doesn't count for much.
It's true. We both agreed 99 as Toy Story. Toy Story has made no moves.
No moves.
No moves. It is just
Perfect
fine.
where it is.
Yep, it is just fine. Then we have French Connection as 98 on the list with the French Connection, which moved down a lot than it is on the regular list, but
yeah, it moved down, what is that, 5 spaces?
5 spaces, which is as is what
it's
it is.
It's the way it goes, you know, it's the way it goes.
The way it goes. Then 97, Last Picture Show, which is the same across both of our lists.
All 3 lists contains the same place.
And the same with Pulp Fiction and Blade Runner, which come in at 96 and 95 respectively. And then Ben-Hur. I got to put that shit in as 94.
He got to put Ben-Hur down.
Yeah, but I mean, it kind of evens out later because, you know.
I'm okay with it. Ben-Hur is probably one of those movies where I'm going to see a movie like it later on the list and be like, alright, no, this is actually a way better version of Ben-Hur than Ben-Hur.
And Ben-Hur's going to do a free fall.
Yeah, it's going to do a free fall on my personal list.
But I think one movie that we both agree isn't going to make any free falls anytime soon is 94 with Do the Right Thing.
Because there's not going to be something like Do the Right Thing on the rest of this list. At least in my opinion. I don't think we're going to see anything like it.
I don't think so either. I think this is going to be the movie that's probably going to move up the highest, the fastest. And then now we get to the final 2, the one we actually argued about for a very long time.
Yes, and I made many good points.
Yep. I made a lot of good points because I managed to drag this one up from the depths for you. Yes. So that's going to be 92 is Goodfellas, 91 is Sophie's Choice. They make no moves. So, yeah, that's the combined list.
The AFI list was correct about Sophie's Choice over Goodfellas.
Sons of bitches.
Also, I think Sophie's Choice is going to be another mover on the list for me. And then, like, Goodfellas is going to be a mover until we get to The Godfather. And then it's going to be like, come on, man, it's The Godfather. Like, it's so much better than Goodfellas.
You don't even know. You don't even know. But yeah, so that is the combined list that we have. Do you have any comments you want to make about the list as we have it now?
It doesn't necessarily mean the movie's bad where we put it, except for Yankee Doodle Dandy. The movie's kind of bad, but I mean, it's also one of those movies where it's still nice. It's not like bad, like The Room bad. We're not saying that.
No.
Like,
it's still a great
It's still
movie.
A good movie. It's
these
only
10
nice.
movies are all some of the greatest films ever made.
Yeah.
You know, Yankee Doodle Dandy being the worst of some of the greatest is still like, it's still a solid movie. It's just, I think we're both basically in agreement is the 7, we have Sophie's Choice down to Last Picture Show.
Yeah.
Those ones are pretty solid. They're not going to come off the list anytime
off.
soon. It's French Connection, Toy Story, and Yankee Doodle Dandy are the only ones that were like,
Yeah, they could probably find their way off. Toy Story would have to be supplanted by something similar.
Yeah.
While French Connection and Yankee Doodle Dandy, I don't think that have that same caveat. They could just be replaced by just other movies.
This
doesn't really matter what kind of a genre or themes they have that would be similar. They don't have to be similar at all. They could just be something better.
But yeah,
they could be something better. You know, something like a Coen Brothers film, like maybe a
Big Lebowski.
No.
No Country for
No Country for Old Men. One of my favorite movies. Get that bitch on this list. The movie's amazing.
Well, here's a little thing for everybody to look forward to. So, for these little update milestone videos or podcasts or whatever, we're going to do one every 10 movies we watch. So we did one after we got through 191, then we're going to do another one once we get to 81 and 71 and blah, 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 all the way until we get to number 1. But at the end, once we finish all of them, we're gonna suggest some movies that should probably come on here because, again, the
Come
list
on
has...
and come off.
Yeah.
Because we're probably gonna get to something like Titanic. I'm not gonna be a particular fan of it. I already know.
You already can
I've never
feel
even
it.
seen the movie, but I already know I'm not gonna be a big fan of Titanic.
I think you're a cynic. But it is gonna be interesting. And I don't know if they will always have this kind of format where we go over our personal list every single time. We probably won't do a plot synopsis or a little talking point for every single movie.
Yeah,
once
we get a little farther on the list, we'll probably have to not dragging them out so long. When we get to the next one, where we do 81 through 100, we're not going to do plot synopsises for the bottom 10. Already done them.
Yeah, but... With that, any more thoughts on this combined list, or as we go along?
Sophie's choice is really fucking good. I really see it moving up fast.
Honestly, I think this is going to be a thing where these 10 movies are probably going to switch around a lot as we keep going. Because when we were doing this, we had a pretty long conversation just coming up with a combined list. And I think that's the best part about these movies and the best part about cinema. Everything changes upon conversation reevaluation.
Oh, yeah,
movies evolve.
Something we did talk about where it was, we're going to start viewing other movies that's going to put these movies we've already seen into different contexts, or just more context. We're going to see a different movie about raising children, and it's going to put Sophie's Choice in a different light. We're going to see another movie...
Or a different Holocaust movie.
A different Holocaust movie is going to put Sophie's Choice in a different light. Or, a movie about, like, a relationship that you just really want to make work. It's going to put Sophie's Choice in a different light. We're going to see The Godfather. It's going to put Goodfellas in a different light. We're going to see, maybe another crime drama, which I don't know if there's more on here, but there probably are.
There's plenty. Gangster movies, noir movies.
True, yeah. It's going to put French Connection in a different light.
Different musicals are going to put Yankee Doodle Dandy in a different light.
Also true. We're going to see, when we finally get to, what is it, Snow White?
Oh, yeah.
Toy Story in a different light. Because I don't even know when's the last time I've seen Snow White and the Seven Dwarves.
Oh, God.
God, like 15 years ago at best.
Maybe more?
Probably more.
That's going to be an interesting one when we get there, because there might be some shitting on that movie. I ain't gonna
really?
There might be.
All right.
You look forward to it.
But also something like Last Picture Show, with any coming of age movie, we're going to have to make connections there and like comparisons, see the Last Picture Show through this new lens.
And I can't wait for it.
That's going to be great. It's probably going to be one of the better parts of this whole watching all of these movies, is seeing them through the lens of other movies.
Also the discussion and reevaluation of these. But, that's the list we have so far.
Yep.
Yep. If you wanted to keep up with these little milestone episodes, and if you wanted to listen to the episodes where we talk about each movie in a long-form discussion, you can find those on our YouTube channel, In the Frame, under, the Film Odyssey podcast, and you can also find us on Spotify, Google Podcast, Anchor.fm. All that is under the Film Odyssey podcast. Any final words?
I convinced you to put Sophie's Choice over Goodfellas. Me 1, you 0.
Am I fucking funny to you? How am I fucking funny to you?
You're like a clown to me, you fuck.
You fuck! Alright, everybody, have a great day.
Have a great time.